This is just going to be low-key format, just you and I talking about, well, me talking to you, but I hope you are able to get something from this, and I would love to see your engagement. But I want to talk about stories. You might relate this to the ego. You know, our ego is essentially, I like to call it our personality. I think that's the best way to say it, but our ego is really just our avatar, right? This character we've built, the identities we hold, right? So whatever you think you are, you become. Whatever identity you cling to, you have. I think there comes a time and a place, probably in all of our lives, maybe multiple times in our lives, where we have to kind of dismantle who we've been, especially if we are at a place where we're looking at our avatar, we're looking at what we've created with that avatar, and things aren't resonating. This has happened for me, this has happened for a lot of people where you don't like the character you've built. And you know you've built it, you did it with good intent, right? You're just trying to find your way like all of us. But if you get to a point where you don't like your life, everything is really dark, it's been dark, you're trying to do the same thing, yet you're not, the outcome isn't changing. You know, what's that definition of insanity? Is like doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. You know, sometimes, oftentimes, you might get to the point where you realize you're the common thread in everything that went wrong. You know, every situation in your life, you've been the one that has been there. So I think in life, the more we're able to, and we do it as we can, but the more we can just take ownership of every situation in our life, everything that went wrong, everything that went good, and not in a way to say that we are the one to blame, but to just look at it and know that we are the only thing that we can change. And we are the ultimate source, right, of everything. So who we are determines everything. It determines every relationship we have, every dream, every thought, every idea. And if we want different things, we need to change the story. Ego, whatever. I like to say story because I think it's all just stories. We change naturally through time, but I think we forget that at any point, if life isn't going how we want it to go, we can change. And sure, it's easier said than done. But I think there are things that I've noticed that kind of create baggage around who we used to be. You know, I think I have a lot of qualms with social media. I'm just going to touch on that briefly, but you know, social media, I don't know. It's such a burden. It's such a burden. I reactivated my Instagram because it's kind of hard to operate in this world if you don't have social media. You want to stay connected to people you once knew, right? And you want to be able to connect with new people, and most people are just doing that, and that's fine. I think people like me, and I'm not alone, right? Just like you, the things you experience, the way you see the world, there are going to be so many people like you, just like there are so many people like me. For me, it's just too overwhelming, you know? It's burdensome because I've changed so much, and it feels like this weird tether, this weird anchor to who I've been in all these different versions, and it created this density in my life that I didn't realize until I got rid of it. When I got rid of it, after a while, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months, a weight was lifted. It's like, I can be anyone. I am free, you know? And this idea of freedom, you know, I think we all want to be free. You know, there's things we have to do, people we have to be, you know. If you're a parent, right, you've signed up for a role for life, you know. You're a mother, you're a father, you know, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're a daughter, you're a son, right? We have all these roles that we have to be, but beyond that, sometimes we can get really rigid and become unhappy with our lives because we've become a shell of who we once were, because we threw up this character, this avatar, right? Which, again, we created with great intent, but Something something happened along the way, right? We were inspired to follow a path, and we followed that path. And maybe at the end of that path, we realized this doesn't fully resonate. And depending on your life situation, sometimes you're not able to backtrack, right? If you have these other responsibilities, depending on what avatar you've created, it's not always easy to change. And that's how we can get stuck and stagnant and really dismal, you know? So I think in life, we always have the opportunity to change, right? To regrow, reborn, become reborn, all of that good stuff. But I think it's on us to figure out where we're expending energy, because it is limited. I think if you're like me, it's easy, or in the past it has been easy, to try to care about everyone to a degree that you feel like you are emanating love. And maybe that wasn't, and it's funny, like maybe that wasn't what the outcome was, but that was definitely what your intent was, right? Like you just want to be a force of love. But giving all of your energy out to places, I mentioned social media, that's just one. You might have friends that you don't resonate with. Maybe you're in a friend group and you just go out and you drink every weekend, but there's nothing really meaningful there, right? Maybe you take drugs and you go partying. And it feels so fantastic. I've had, like I was saying, I've had so many different versions of me, you know, and that's what makes it really hard when I change every time. It's painful. It's painful for me because I have to rebuild, and it feels like I lose that tether. And I think that's a good thing, but I think it's hard to manage, right? It's hard to navigate. Because it's new people. Every time it's a new you, right? People might assume you've lost your mind, you're going crazy, and I don't know, maybe they're right, maybe that is what it's all about, just losing yourself each time so you can just start from ground zero. And that's kind of what it feels like each time, so maybe that is what it is, and it's not such a bad thing. I think getting to a place where you can tune in to who you are uniquely, genuinely, and that fills you up is an entire journey, because there's so much that is there to tell us that we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we're not capable of such things. And that gets to you, right? Over a decade, over a lifetime. But it's all just a story, right? It's something we chose to believe at one point, something we grabbed onto and decided it to be true. But none of it, it's all up to us, right? It's all up to us what we want to believe, and we don't want to believe that either. We don't want to believe that we're creating our world with our heads, with our emotions, with our thoughts, with our feelings. We don't want to believe that because it doesn't feel like we have been doing that. It feels like the world operates in a certain way. That is how the world operates, and that is how we will navigate it. But there are so many different ways, and this is how you know. There's so many different people having different experiences. People that have gone from rags to riches, people that have gone from riches to rags, people that have done the same thing for an entire lifetime, and at the end of their life, they still wonder, what was their life? Why was everyone so mean and cruel, right? There's so many ways of life, and there are people who can take trauma and turn it into beauty. There are people that can, take beauty and turn it into, there's so many different ways. And when you think about it like that, and you look at it like that, you're no different. We're all the same. This is my belief. I think we're all the same. I feel that we're all part of the same energy. Call it God, call it universal force, call it whatever you want. We're all part of that, and we're all the same. So the way I see it is, if someone else can turn something into something beautiful and magical, that means it's possible. And to think it's not possible for me just because I haven't done it, that doesn't serve me. I think looking at the stories we tell, if we must tell stories at all, I think it is important to create stories that serve you, give grace to others, and allow for room to move with that story and that narrative into something meaningful. I know deeply a lot of us struggle, right? We don't know how to process our emotions. We don't know what's happening, right? We get into the same situation over and over again. We get overwhelmed. We feel like we just can't get it right, whatever that thing is. We see the patterns happening over and over again. And that in itself is a sign that we're telling a story. Because if we were free, if we were flowing, we would most likely have different experiences. We wouldn't be stuck in the same pattern year after year, right? If you're stuck and you're seeing like, okay, this variable and this variable is changing, but it's the same outcome time and time again, you're stuck in a story. You're stuck in a story that doesn't serve you. You're stuck in patterns that don't serve you. And that is where I think taking ownership and looking at that just honestly, just objectively, as if it's not your story, it's someone else's. Sometimes just old-fashioned getting a piece of paper, writing down what that story is, putting it away for maybe a week, coming back to it, you'll read it and you'll be like, whoa. Like, whoa. Like, journaling, I don't do a whole lot of journaling, but I will here and there for like 1 or 2 days, right? And when I go back and look at it year over year, I look back and I'm like, whoa, she was kind of tortured. She was kind of tormented, she, like, what was that lens, And I think that's very helpful because you don't see it at the time. It's really hard to see, like, we have this flesh body, right? So we see everything kind of through us. And if you're someone who meditates, you get to kind of break that. You get to break that a bit because you realize then you are part of, spiritual people call it the I am. I am is just God. It's just existence. I am is consciousness. So when you're very quiet, you meditate, you tap in to this, and you're not moving your body. So you lose the sense of your body and you tap into this all-knowing, all-feel, like, kind of, how do you call it? Like suspended in time consciousness, ever present, ever aware. You don't need your body for that. We think we need our body because we've always had our body, right? But we are more than that. We are that consciousness when everything is very quiet, when you don't feel your body. And that is who you really are. And you can craft anything from that. So if that interests you about meditation, then I would definitely explore that. And you realize the stories too. You realize, what's going on, especially when you first start meditating, you get like monkey brain. You get monkey brain and you can't meditate wrong. I think that's fine. I think you getting monkey brain, which is like, woo, jump to this tree, that tree, this tree, that's showing you what's going on because, you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not these things. You are the one observing. And after time, you realize that, and you realize how powerful you are. You realize that it's like a runaway train, right? All your thoughts. But it's you who decides to jump on at different points. Grab the handle and jump on. Grabbing onto that part of the story that you want to resonate with. And maybe you're doing that because it's been habitual, right? Or maybe you're doing that because it's something new, this or that, right? But we're always crafting the story, how we want to experience the world. Because the thing is, I'll end it on this note. Life is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's all it is. That's why, you might feel like you can see the future, right? You're like, oh, I told you so. Well, it's because you were hoping for that. Even if you're saying, I don't want this. Oh my gosh, it's gonna get ruined. Oh my God. Like, you putting all your energy to that, assuming it will happen, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. That is you saying, I want that. It's really how it works, right? What you focus on multiplies, grows, and you will get. It's also psychology, it's confirmation bias. What we believe, we will look for supporting evidence. And it just becomes a reiterating cycle where whatever you believe, you see. That's why that's why you should try to change your beliefs and try to disconnect from your thoughts and feelings as much as you can, because they are not you. They are not you. If you want to be a slave to who you were at one point, then attach yourself to your thoughts and feelings and assume those are you. If you want to not have freedom, we'll say it another way. If you want freedom, realize that life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you believe, you will get. For the most part. Anyways, this became a little bit of a ramble going back and forth, stringing a few different topics together, but I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have had issues with any of these things, if you found insight from any of these things, if you've tried any of these things in your life, would love to hear. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.